Hello and welcome back to Call The Midwife. We are three superfans and each week we watch an episode and discuss. This week we are watching Series 5, Episode 6. I'm Becky.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jen. A reminder that this week's episode deals with traumatic birth and sexual and physical assault. So if those are topics you would prefer to skip this time, we understand and hope you join us for the next one. In this week's episode, we meet Thora, Hill, and her daughter Diane. Thora has 4 children, Diane being the eldest. Thora looks heavily pregnant when she comes to an event at Nonnatus House, but tells Trixie and Shelagh that she has plans to deliver at the hospital on account of her age. We soon discover that it's not Thora who is pregnant, but Diane, and they are hiding her pregnancy to avoid the shame and ridicule of being an unwed mother. When Diane goes into labor, Thora says she can handle the birth alone, but a serious complication leads to real harm for Diane, and Trixie and Sister Mary Cynthia arrive just in time. Meanwhile, Dr. Turner has a major surprise coming to him. Shelagh has planned a week-long camping vacation for the whole family. He is reluctant to go and worries that leaving his practice in the hands of a retired doctor will cause problems, but tries to make the best of it. Rain and leaky tents finally drive the family to a nearby hotel, and when Dr. Turner learns of Diane's injuries from Trixie, they cut the vacation short and plan a proper one after Dr. Turner has set things right. Last, Barbara and Tom are getting closer and are on their way home from another date when they are interrupted by a woman crying out for help. She has just been attacked, and other women in Poplar are also victimized. First, a patient of Sister Julienne's, and then in the early morning after helping Thora and Diane, Sister Mary Cynthia. She is brutally attacked while standing at the docks to pray at the same time as her sisters. At first, she is unwilling to talk to the police, but after support and understanding from her sisters and friends at Nonnatus House, decides she can make a report. Her evidence leads to an arrest, and her honesty and bravery allows others to follow suit. A big sigh for me, girls. Just gonna say, this episode had me absolutely raging, and I'm sure I'll go off a number of times, but I will just.
I love that it evokes different feelings.
It's a difficult episode as well because everything is so intertwined. So we've got a plan of how we're going to kind of talk through the episode, but we might end up jumping around a bit.
We will, definitely. But really quick, I just want to do a shout out to Rebecca Golden Stockton off Facebook, who is looking forward to listening to today's episode. She means the one we dropped last week. But she says she's really excited about episode 5.6, which is the one we're doing today, because she just loves the Turners because they never get to have any fun storylines. So she loves the camping episode. So shout out to you, Rebecca Golden Stockton. This one's for you.
Rebecca, and you know what? Amen to that, because my God, did we need some lightheartedness and brevity in this episode. And thank God the Turners.
Thank God for Dr. Turner's knees.
I know, his massive voluminous shorts just really gave some life to what was otherwise a really painful and sad episode to get through.
Golly. So the episode starts with Nonnatus House is hosting a pensioners' tea, and I know. Timothy and Sheila have planned a surprise for Dr. Turner, and they've arranged with Patsy that they're going to borrow the Scouts' camping equipment, basically.
You could not paint. We were talking about the toilet the other day, sitting in the toilet floor. That is the Scout tent. Teen little boys, grubby boys. Ugh.
Well, girls, I'm just gonna come right out and say this. I don't like camping. I don't like it at all. I don't know why. I understand why people like it and why people want to do it.
I don't.
But I also absolutely don't get why you would ever do it. To me, there's if anyone ever said oh, you want to go camping? I'd be like, hard pass. No. I don't want to do it. I don't even want to glamping. I don't want to do fancy camping. If I'm not in a firm structure with indoor plumbing and electricity, I don't want to be there overnight.
It's the toilet for me. And also it's never a good temperature. Number one, I've got a fringe. It's not conducive to camping. Number two, it's either way too cold or way too hot. It's disgusting. It's sweaty or freezing. It's never in between. It's never comfortable. I remember I went to Glastonbury once with 3 of my friends, and it was 2 girls, 2 boys, but we're all just friends. So I was staying in the tent with my friend, girl, and the 2 boys were staying in another. We were so freezing cold that night. We all went to this store where clothes were 50p each and bought loads of clothes. All went into the one tent, all bunched up together, freezing cold. And I'll never forget the noise that one of the boys made. It sounded like a moose or something in the morning because we were so hot. The condensate, it was just the worst. It's never ever good. Camping's just awful, and there's no toilet.
I love camping. I mean, I don't do it. I haven't done it for a lot of years.
Well, which means you don't love it, because if you did love it, you'd do it more.
Yeah, you would do it. You would have done. When was the last time you went camping, Bex?
I mean, it's got to be a good 10, 15 years ago.
Well, you don't love camping then.
Yeah, no, you don't. Yeah,
I love the idea of it.
Oh, I like the idea of a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that in the actual fact of like completing it, I would ever want to do it at all.
I hate the idea of it. I hate camping.
I have to say though, there's a difference between modern day camping and camping in the 1960s.
What's the difference?
In a horrible grubby tent full of germs.
But what's the difference?
Well, it's just everything's moved on a lot. The sleeping bags have moved on. The tents have moved on.
No, they haven't. Not really.
Yes, they have. They absolutely have.
Well, you can buy nicer versions of the same thing, but basically you're in like a plastic bag, and then you're in a smaller plastic bag for your body, and then you have like a little fire over like a bag of sticks, and then you eat like weird food.
Oh, hang on. I will say, a s'more you can't knock. You can't knock a s'more.
I 100% agree, but like you can have s'mores anytime, and you do not need to be camping to have a s'more. Like
now, for our British fans, look at me being a Brit and explaining this like I'm totally American. But I only know about s'mores.
Really, do you guys?
S'mores are quite universal these days, aren't they?
Are they? Is it a universal thing? Graham crackers and marshmallows and.
Well, we would do it with biscuits, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I did it with biscuits when I did it here the other week.
Yeah.
But I only knew about it because my auntie lived in Indiana and we did it over there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do we need to explain like what they are? I mean,
graham crackers, chocolate, and a melted marshmallow all squeezed together, and it is delicious.
It is delicious. It is. Yeah. I mean, it's like one of the most perennially like classic childhood American foods I think you could ever have.
With peanut butter and jelly. Did you ever eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up on peanut butter and jelly.
I've never had it.
I thought you guys didn't grow up on peanut. You guys don't have peanut butter and jelly in the Brits,
no,
right?
No. If I'm honest,
it sounds horrendous.
Revolts me.
Sounds. I feel the same way as you do about camping.
You know what? Just a quick aside. This is something that the Americans all discovered when we went over to do our study abroad year with you guys in Britain, and all of us could not believe that you guys did not do peanut butter and jelly. And like even when because the other thing I remember I learned when I was over there is jelly to you guys is like what we call Jello. Yeah. It's like a gelatin dessert. Jam. But then we were like, okay, well, jelly to us is what you guys would call jam. And we were like, okay, that solves the problem, right? Like put peanut butter and jam together, and like there you go. And all of you were like, no, nothing has been resolved. Like this still sounds terrible. And I just can't even tell you how much that makes my head explode, because I mean, peanut butter and jelly is like
So I'm going to say this. I don't think sweet sandwiches are a thing over here. Like, I suppose some people have jam sandwiches. It's quite rare. It's not something we'd have a lot in my house anyway.
No, but then I suppose we do have jam. Things? I suppose it's no different to like if you have jam on toast.
Or jam biscuits, or like, that kind of thing. Or not jam biscuits, but
can't explain it.
But like like cream scones and stuff, where you do a scone and you split it in half with like jam and clotted cream and everything.
Yeah.
Anyways, like listeners sound off, because I'm telling you, peanut butter and jelly, I don't think there's any child in this country.
You know what? Me and Beck should do a taste test with that. The next special.
No.
Well, tough, we are.
It's really good. I mean, it like completely makes sense when you taste it. Now, I will say the thing that you should do is have peanut butter.
Beck's also just going to throw up.
No, but peanut butter and then like strawberry or blueberry jam is the best combo. Like other jams are not all jams are created equal, but you need like a strawberry or blueberry, or like a like a grape jam.
Anyway, back to camping. So I've written.
Well, if they'd had food as nice as those on the camping trip, it might have looked more appealing, but no.
Oh, Sheila's excitement though at going camping.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, and also the holiday announcement, the way they announced it with the big posh meal, and he was like, "Oh, we don't ever have nice meals like this normally on a weeknight." And it's like, well, life's different today. We're going on holiday.
Okay, you guys, why wouldn't the Turners have serviette except for on the weekends?
I don't know.
I was like, because I mean, a serviette is a napkin. I'm like, why wouldn't you have a napkin like every day?
That's very Sheila Turner, though, isn't it? Like, she's probably like, oh, we're not being wasteful. We're only going to have them on special occasions.
But you need to wipe your hands at times when you eat food. I mean, I don't understand.
So wait, do you have a serviette at every meal?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I always need a napkin whenever I'm eating any food.
This is the divide in my household. So I never have. My husband lived in Bahrain for a few years, 7 years, 8 years, whatever, working over there. And it's very American culture over there. And he has a serviette with every meal. Like, he's just constantly using serviette. He uses loads. If I'm honest, it's ridiculously wasteful. Just stuff oil are probably going to be on us.
Don't get me wrong. If I'm in a restaurant or a cafe or something, I will totally use a napkin.
Now wait, are you guys saying, because we use cloth napkins in our household, so we use them and then we reuse them again. I mean, we use paper napkins sometimes, but we don't want to throw away all that paper. But like we have to have a napkin with every meal at our house.
No,
I mean, unless it's Christmas, the most I'd go to is maybe grabbing a paper towel.
Well, Jen's there eating a peanut butter and jam sandwich
with a cloth serviette.
Honestly, I am. I do that. Well, I mean, I'm not so bad, but like my other thing is like I'm just always afraid that I'm gonna spill something on myself, or that I'm gonna, whatever. I mean, and if I'm eating anything with my hands, then I always have to have a napkin because I always want to wipe my hands off. So yeah, I always have to have a napkin. I don't know. I guess it is just American. I don't know. Wow.
Well, anyway, they were very excited. They had this lovely meal, and they were like, "We're going camping." He was like, "Oh," because he'd fallen asleep on the sofa just to confirm how much he needs to have a holiday.
He's the most tired man in the world, that man.
It's so true. I've written in capitals say I hate camping, but we already know that.
Wait. I wrote something about camping too in my notes.
Becky's like, I've got a camping tattoo.
I thought when Jen comes over, we'd go camping. Clearly not.
That's really nice. You can camp in the garden while me and Jen go somewhere nice.
I was like, Becky, you did not think we were going camping. I'll tell you what.
Actually, camping with you two does not sound fun.
It wouldn't be. I can guarantee you, an hour into it, and you would regret the choice we made to do it. You'd have to like kidnap me to get me out there. I will tell you what we did as little kids though, which was cute, and this was something I did a couple times as a little kid, especially in New England when it was like fall, when it was like not too cold overnight, but it was like a nice temperature.
No temperature is conducive for camping, just saying, carry on.
Yeah. There were a couple of times where we would put up a tent outside in our backyard, and like I would have a sleepover with a couple of girlfriends, and then we could be in the tent, like as much as we wanted. But every time we had to go to the bathroom, all the food we had to eat, like we could come inside for that. And then if we didn't want to spend the whole night overnight in the tent, we could just come inside and go to bed. So like that was, I mean, again, I'm not really describing camping there. I'm literally just describing like an outdoor fort that like we played in. And then we obviously use the amenities of my home, but that's about as much camping as I would wanna.
Do you know what got me though? So they go camping and they have some trouble putting the tent up. And it just
but before they get camping, I just love firstly the amount of stuff you have to take camping.
Yes.
And
so much.
I just love Dr. Turner's panic that he can either get the tent in the car or the children, but not both. But also the fact that Barbara produces an incontinence sheet for them to cover the roof rack with so it doesn't get wet. But what's worse about using the incontinence sheet is it's from the charity box. That's a second-hand incontinence sheet. It's not even brand new.
I genuinely was like, fine, when I heard that.
Well, you're already like among the filth of nature anyway. Like what I mean, is an incontinence sheet really going to ruin it? Like, I don't know.
Just going to get squirrel piss on it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God. You know what I thought was funny was they were like, it had started to rain when they left Poplar and everything. And then they drove to the campsite and it looked like it was like 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon when they get there. So the sun is already starting to go down. And Tim gets out of the car with an umbrella to like open the gate into the campsite. And the name of the campsite is, I wrote it down, Sunny Vista. Not a sunny vista at all. Literally nothing has looked less like a sunny vista ever in their whole life. And also what made me really laugh is little Angela being like such a like, London like city kid where she's like actually afraid of a squirrel, and I just like, oh my gosh, Angela, I'm like, wow, you are truly like such like a little totally city mouse little
also
kid.
When Dr. Turner soaked his tea, his sleeping bag with tea. I've done that with orange juice before, and Glastonbury again. I wasn't the most sober, and I'm not gonna lie, the smell of sunny. It's like one day in. Like concentrate orange juice. Oh, it was absolutely disgusting.
Well, when he says the thing of like, well, at least it'll be warm and wet instead of cold and wet, I was just like, like just, I was like, you're really. I mean, I would have quit and gone to a hotel before we even got out of the car. I would just be like, babe, there's a Motel 6 down the road. Like, let's just keep driving. Like, why are we even doing this? It's ridiculous.
Well, it's also the way he couldn't leave work at home. He kept going on about it. He was like, general practice is a young man's game. And I'll tell you what made me laugh. Sheila being like, you're not exactly Cliff Richard yourself. Now, Cliff Richard's well old to us. So I was just like, what?
But at the time, Cliff Richard was like a young guy. Yeah. Well, the thing that made me laugh about that was when she was like, "Oh, Patrick, what are you thinking about?" And he was like, "The lung clinic at home." Like, and she was like,
"Okay, it's the ulcer clinic."
The ulcer clinic? Oh, I thought it was like
as romantic as my husband gets.
But the thing that I thought was, I was like, if Dr. Like, okay, it's obviously like 1961 or whatever. So like when he leaves work, he can't like be in connection with any work or whatever. But if he was like in 2023 times, like he would leave, but then he would be like texting the office, calling the office, like checking his email. Like she'd be battling like the technology with him the whole vacation. And she'd be like the phone would beep at dinner and she'd be like, "We've talked about this. Can't you just leave it alone?" He's like, "Well, Sheila, if I don't, get it." And she's like, No, Patrick, we've discussed. And then, like that. Like he just can't let it go.
Camping, they go camping, they're all excited about it like Becky would be, and then they go and it's absolutely disastrous. The tent falls down, it's peeing it down, they're all four of them in there in one tent. Angela's terrified of squirrels. So then they start playing I Spy. There's bullet holes that Timothy thinks they're bullet holes, and they're like, no, that's probably moths in the thing. But then they start playing I Spy. Now I cannot believe that this honestly was an answer, that they actually got the answer to I Spy. Something beginning with BHIROTRSTCI.
Yeah, because by the time you got to the end of that, I can't even remember what the first letter was.
Well, girls,
Dr. Turner being like, bullet holes in ridge of tent, rain starting to come in. I suddenly get that. It really annoyed me.
Wait a minute. How do you guys play I Spy? Because that wasn't even remotely how I thought of playing that game.
Well, I've not done like 12 little things like that, but I've done like 3 or something like.
So let's say you were like
to my brother, like your stupid face, ISF.
So you would play it with the initials of each letter of the word.
No, I've never done that.
I've only done that because I'm trying to taunt him.
See, I like the way that I've always played I Spy as kids is like, oh, like I Spy with my little eye something yellow, and then it's like, well, is it this?
Oh no, always initial.
Oh no, see, we never played with initials. We
used to play when my daughter couldn't spell. We used to play, but she's 6 now. She can, read and spell.
Well, talking about too little, Angela, at the start of the camping trip, they had Angela in a separate tent. She's too little to be in a set. I know she's with Timothy, but still.
Well, they had Timothy and her in a separate hotel room.
Yeah, I just think they should have divided it up.
If I'm honest, Bex, I think that's good. That's what part of the 1950s parenting experience that I would like to experience.
I think they should have had Sheila and Angela and Timothy and Dr. Turner.
Yeah, but in 2023 you would do that, but not in 1961.
Also, this is a very minor detail. Did anyone notice Angela? Well, the other thing is when they come into the tent and they're playing I Spy, Dr. Turner and Sheila are wrapped in blankets. Kids just sat there in their clothes.
Angela was just smiling so sweetly. She was like, like she had the most cute, like little, like sunny disposition. And I was
when they're playing I Spy, Angela does a little shrug and a smile, and you can totally tell that she's reacting to somebody behind the camera. It's so cute.
You know what I did actually think about because I was like, they must be cold. But then I did think, I wonder if they've tried to put like a blanket on that toddler and she's having none of it.
Does that speak to your own experience, Al? About
100%. Let's be your own god. Like, do you remember that time? I'll just say this story really quick. My husband took my daughter to nursery when she was 2. I was doing something, and it was like December or something ridiculous. And she was in a t-shirt. It was actually a short sleeve dress and pajama bottoms. And I went to pick her up, and I was like, "What is she wearing?" And I spoke to him, and he was like, "She told me she wears it all the time." I'm like, "She's 2. What are you doing?" Anyway, that's by the by. My point being, yes, that is in my experience.
Oh gosh.
Now we can't really go ahead with what happens on the camping trip or how it ends because it all goes into other stories.
So So the reason to discuss the camping trip first is because Sheila has arranged for a locum to stand in. Cue Dr. Godfrey.
So let's put a pin in the camping and then we'll come back to camping.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go on to talk about Thora and Diane Hills.
Ugh.
Do you know what though? Mrs. Hills was so kind to the old people with the I love that with the seafood.
I will save this until we've gotten a little deeper into the storyline. My was not at Thora.
It was the old people.
How did you know? No, it's about a bigger issue. So I was more. I'll say more about that. But I have compassion for Thora. But I also feel angry and upset at this storyline, but I will explain more after we've talked about it a little bit more.
I just felt really, really sorry for Diane because she was absolutely terrified of this birth. Luckily, her dad was away as well, by the way. Although I presume if her dad was actually there, maybe he'd be able to talk some sense into her mum. But she was so terrified of birth and wasn't allowed to think about it. She was like, you get that out of your mind. Didn't know anything about what was coming up. She was trying to ask questions and her mum just wouldn't talk to her about it.
I don't think the dad would be helpful in this situation.
Yeah, because she literally didn't know how the baby was going to come out. But I like Thora, good on her, was trying to protect her daughter. I know it's not the ideal situation, but then
good on her's not really what I've had in mind.
It's the 19th, yeah, but the fact that she was gonna like her daughter was potentially going to be ruined. Yeah, like she's not just
okay, girls. I'm just going to go off right now because like I can't keep it anymore.
I mean, it's not an ideal situation. I'm not saying it was the best solution, but I'm just saying it was a solution.
Yeah, but it wasn't discussed with Diane.
Here's the thing I wrote in my notes: the power of shame of being an unwed mother versus the danger of hiding a pregnancy and then attempting a home birth without any medical professional or intervention available. Like that to me is such a shocking and unbelievable dichotomy that I just like I watched the episode recently and then I rewatched it again today in prep for this, and like watching it again just made me even more mad because the thing is, to me, Thora is a victim, Diane is a victim, like the baby is a victim. Everyone in this storyline of the three of them are
her brothers are victims. They had to go to bed in the daytime.
Yeah, I mean that suffering is like untold. They're never going to recover. But like the thing is like the fact that Thora thought it was so bad and so shameful for Diane to be basically what does she say about some other unwed mother, like shoddy
Janice
goods?
Myers, shoddy goods for life.
Life, basically.
Oh,
and she's willing to keep her daughter from getting care and medical attention throughout a first pregnancy, keeping her daughter completely in the dark about everything that entails, like prescribing her medication while she's pregnant, even though she has absolutely no medical knowledge at all. And then just because she's given birth a few times herself, thinks that she can carry out a full like delivery on her own, and then harms her daughter in the effort to try to keep the pregnancy a secret even more. And then Trixie has to go to the hospital because she doesn't trust Thora to tell the truth about it. I mean, to me, that is like a level of societal just like absolute dysfunction that sends me through the roof. And I just like I can't believe that. I mean, to me, this is what happens when you create so much shame and ridicule and like disgrace around all of these things ultimately that come down to like women's issues.
They've kept it so insular as well, haven't they? Just in their household. But I also feel like as the only adult in that household, because obviously Diane's really scared, Thora's just going to listen to her mum because that's her mum. And I feel like if there was another adult to bounce off, like I'm sure it'd be absolutely furious at first and all this, but I really don't know if she had another adult to bounce off that this would have happened.
I mean,
I think it's a different time. Thora had the best of intentions for her daughter.
Okay, fine, but it's still so deeply like screwed up that like I don't see any positive. Like I'm not going to give anyone any, like the only grace I'm willing to give Thora is the fact that she was under so much societal pressure and personal experience from having to get married to the guy she's married to because she was knocked up when like they were together at like teens or whatever, that like she's just basically reacting to all she knows. But like there's no excuse for treating women this way. I'm sorry, it's
well, also for
like,
context,
such a life-ruining.
So Diane Hill's got pregnant. The guy she got pregnant with just ran off, basically. Didn't want anything to do with this. She's on her own. Yeah. She's pregnant. She's 15, 16, did they say?
16, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And the dad's away at sea and she's got a few little brothers and them in the house. Her mum's a fishmonger. She works on the fishmongers with her mum, and her mum is basically pretending to have a baby. She's had all her other babies within her arms, but this time she said because she's older, she's with the hospital, but she actually isn't. And Trixie was a bit, oh, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, Trixie was suspicious.
Like, they thought it was weird,
yeah. So anyway, Diane then goes into labour. And Thora is saying that she's got it all in hand at home. She's got this little kit, hasn't she? With like
and she's ahead of her time, Jen. She did a water birth. That bath was ideal.
It was. Anyway, so she had the baby, and it wasn't right because the afterbirth wasn't coming through, and I can't carry on talking about that. So someone else has to.
Oh, it's terrible. I don't even want to discuss it. It's terrible.
So this is why we talked about the camping trip first, because Mrs. Hills realizes that it's been, I think she says it's been about an hour and she's still not delivered the afterbirth. So she rings Nonnatus House to ask for advice. Dr. Godfrey answers. Do you know what got me when Dr. Godfrey answered the phone as well? She asked to speak to Trixie, and he's like, would you not rather talk to a doctor?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Oh, I mean, the most sexist man on earth is Dr. Godfrey. Like,
well, not just the most sexist, the most clueless.
So he refers to a medical term, which I've not written down. But then he just basically says, give it a good tug or something to that effect.
Yeah, thank God, though, he got the name Hills, because if he hadn't have got the name Hills, there would have been real issues.
Yeah, because God knows how long Thora would have let it go on before she would have gotten medical help there.
I don't know if I can talk about this with. I don't know if you'll be able to edit it, Alex, without having a turn.
And I've written here, a womb came out, and I've got loads of sicky faces with emojis.
So she had a uterine inversion. So I always thought she just tugged a. So it's where the placenta doesn't detach from the wall of the uterus.
Mm-hmm.
So when you pull it out, it pulls the uterus inside out.
Horrifying.
So you have to reinsert it by hand or surgery, and sometimes it can lead to a hysterectomy. Now, this is where, because obviously Trixie then, she's heard the phone, she comes down, Dr. Godfrey says it was Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Trixie's thought something's afoot here. So Trixie and Mary Cynthia go out, and luckily they get there just in time.
Yeah.
So Trixie takes over. Oh, but Mrs. Hills' reaction when Trixie tells her what she's done. Ugh. And I was just like, oh, it was
visceral.
That was so well acted. But then Trixie says back in place, which is obviously a good thing. But when she gets to the hospital, she goes into surgery. But what I don't know is, did she? I don't think they told us.
No, they said she'll be okay. They just said she'll be okay.
Yeah, so I thought
they would have said if it was. I think she'd be fine, uterus wise. I think she'd be fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Thora's absolutely deeply ashamed of her behaviour, and then
as she should be, honestly.
Diane is really upset, and she doesn't even want to look at the baby. She's like, "Well, it's your baby now," kind of thing. And her mum's like, "No, it's your baby. We can deal with all this." Oh, awful.
I mean, the worst thing in the world. The worst thing. It's just terrible.
But also, Dr. Turner called Nonnatus House after this when he was in the B&B having a lovely time in the morning, because he was just still worried about everything. He's worried about his ulcer clinic. And luckily, he called Nonnatus House and he got Trixie on the phone.
Yeah.
Who was basically informed him all about Dr. Godfrey. And they were like, right, get back in the car, everyone. We're going home.
Yeah. And then I mean, do we want to wrap it up the Turners? Because basically they kind of clear the deck back at home, and then Dr. Turner himself like books time off with a doctor he trusts, and then he books a hotel, and then they go like back on a real vacation, like to a hotel, and have like a week off, like properly a week off.
Yeah.
So we spoke about the fact that Trixie goes to the hospital with Thora and Diane. She doesn't trust Thora to tell the truth to the medical staff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sister Mary Cynthia says she's going to clean up the kitchen, which I do think is something that Sister Julienne has done in a previous episode.
It is, but did you not sense a bit of kind of frenetic anxiety from Sister SMC I've written, Sister Mary Cynthia, when she was scrubbing the floor, and how she's been very, what's the word, neurotic about her prayers and everything with Sister Julienne at the start of the episode? Did you not notice a bit of kind of nervous tension from her?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know what I was really ascribed it to in the moment, but it definitely gave the sense that she had something on her mind anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because just to say, like, because this will become an important point later, is that at the beginning of the episode, Sister Julienne comes into kind of the main dining room area where they always eat, and Sister Mary Cynthia is arranging some flowers that were donated, and Sister Julienne is like, "Oh, look, you have a beautiful knack for flower arranging," and she's like, "Oh, thank you so much." And then she says, they say something else, and then she says, "But I noticed that you haven't been singing very loudly in chapel, and like, we want to hear your voice, like you need to speak up." And she says, "Oh, well, when I was in postulate school or something, they always said that you should never draw attention to yourself because it's a point of like pride, basically, and you kind of have to like keep yourself very inconspicuous." And she says, "But now I've made myself conspicuous because I wasn't singing loudly enough and everything." And Sister Julienne is like, "Well, whenever I question like whatever I've done something good or done something wrong, then I always ask how can this be done for the good of others?" And she's like, "So maybe kind of think about it that way." And Sister Mary Cynthia is like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, I'll kind of contemplate that." And then that's kind of her like internal setting, I think, like as she goes
exactly.
forward in the episode.
But she's struggling with all the different rules of the new life and finding time to fit it all in and slot it in. But I also thought Floristry was another way of kind of making herself busy, not thinking about things too much. It kind of like nervous energy from her.
Okay.
And making sense of the new rules and a new life and everything. I don't know. I just got that from her.
Sure.
Also, did you see the Compline nuns again?
Yeah. Now, if I was Sister Mary Cynthia, Sister Julienne would be glad that I wasn't raising my voice in.
I put here, I would be loud. Becky would not.
I would also not want. I don't think my voice would be, really adding it very much to the.
Oh, I'd be mega into it. I'd be doing ABBA medleys and everything.
So Sister Mary Cynthia is going to clean the kitchen and then she cycles home alone. So let's leave that hanging.
Oh wait, Can we just make one point though?
Okay.
So they show up at the Hill house, and Trixie starts working on Diane to help her out. And Trixie says to Cynthia, like, "Oh, why don't you go ring the ambulance, because we're gonna really need additional medical help." And she's like, "Okay." So she leaves the house and walks out the front door, and it's very dark, kind of a little bit sketchy or whatever. And you're kind of like, oh, what's going to happen? And then all of a sudden you see a light flash onto her, and we look, and it's Fred, and it's the Civil Defense League. And he says, "Oh, I'm going to help you. Like, I'll give you an escort to the phone box to call the flying squad and back." So you're kind of like, oh, okay, something's going on here. And then, so that's the first time that, one of the women is alone, unattended outside. And so then when Cynthia cycles home, then it's like the second time she's, quote, like alone and vulnerable potentially. So we can go forward. Yeah.
Let's go back and explain why the Civil Defense
League. Patrol?
Corps.
The CDC. What does the C?
Corps.
Oh, Corps.
Civil Defense Corps. Yeah.
Oh, I was hearing PAW, like PAW. Sorry, I did
not say paw.
So Barbara and Tom have been on a date.
He bought her a sherbet lolly.
I know. And they had some real chemistry going. Like, he was like really putting his arm around
I loved it. But then they were rudely interrupted by a poor woman who got assaulted.
Rudely interrupted.
Just before we get to the really sad storyline that's coming, the beginning of that scene though, they're like, oh, like what a great movie we just went to, and it's like, yeah, I guess we didn't realize it was going to have such a Christian overtone. And then Tom was like, I think I should take the Sunday school class, like, to go back to it, and she was like, oh, ha ha ha, and then he says something about like whatever that is. Well, I looked up whistle down the wind. Okay. Yeah. And do you guys remember Haley Mills? Do you guys remember the original Parent Trap movie? Okay, so that's who was in that, right?
Well, she's famous for Railway Children for us, but also her son was the lead singer of a band called Cooler Shaker.
Oh, Railway Children I've heard of. I don't know Cooler Shaker.
You all know the song.
But this is actually perfect because the release date is the 20th of July, 1961 in London. So it's like, right around the time and everything. And basically,
I know her from the Railway Children.
Yeah, I know her from Parent Trap, but that's just me. But very quickly, like, I'll just give the plot of this movie. I was like, why would this, whatever. So 3 Lancashire farm children discover a bearded fugitive hiding in their barn and mistake him for Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yes,
now, all of these things happen, like in the synopsis of the story, like they kind of ask him some questions, and then his answers kind of keep making them think that he really is. And then they ask some adults like some very vague questions, and then their answers make them think that he also is, because it's kind of reinforcing some of the things. There's some other stuff, they're talking about like seeing Jesus and things like that, blah blah blah. The guy himself doesn't really understand why they think that he's Jesus, but whatever. But so then things kind of come to a head and everything, and so the end of it, so then blah blah blah, all this stuff happens, and it says, once Blakely is taken away and the crowd disperses, Kathy, who's I think one of the adults, is approached by 2 very young children who ask to see Jesus, because now the whole town has gotten embroiled in this whole storyline. She tells him that they missed him this time, but he will be back one day, which of course we all get what that's in reference to or whatever. But I just was like, I've never heard of this movie. I don't know anything about it, and I don't know. I thought it was a really cool tie-in that they found this like.
Yeah, I have watched this film because my mum is well into old films, and we always had to watch them.
Because I looked up the storyline as well. He's not Jesus Christ. The reason he's hiding in their barn is because he's an escaped killer.
Well, yeah, I said bearded fugitive. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, escaped killer, definitely. Yeah, he's definitely not a morally good person and everything. But you guys have both seen this movie?
I have not.
I have. It unlocked a memory in me when they said it. I remember watching it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that of course they had to find a movie that then Tom and Barbara are like going to take the Sunday school class back to. Also, what else was really funny was when Tom said he didn't want to give Barbara the sherbet lolly in the movie theater because too many people were looking. I was like, wait a minute, is this Am I missing something?
60s, Jen, you can't have a lolly. You can't have a baby unmarried. You can't have a lolly in the cinema. Facts.
It's a level of conservatism I did not really understand.
So Barbara and Tom are walking home from their romantic date.
Yeah.
And they encounter Lizzie, who stumbles upon them. She's very clearly distressed. I was going to say she's very clearly a sex worker, but it's not. It's not so obviously.
She's really not, actually. It's really not clear.
So she's been attacked. They take her back to their house. It's not their house. They don't live together. They take her back to Tom's.
I was about to say they don't live together. Yeah.
So Lizzie is a sex worker. She's been attacked. She doesn't want the police called because she's going to get in trouble because she's been soliciting.
Yeah.
But she's been badly beaten up. She's also got a bite mark on her neck.
Oh, it was gruesome.
Awful.
It was terrible.
This is as far as I've got with that story.
Oh, you weren't going to keep going?
I thought you had it all planned out.
Yeah, like you were just waiting for us to stop commenting on the horribleness.
So I'll carry on. So they try and persuade her to go to the police, and she's having absolutely none of it because she's terrified, because obviously she's a sex worker. She doesn't want her kids taken off her. It could be a really serious thing for her. Luckily, Barbara's a nurse, so I'm a nurse. I'm 23 and I'm a nurse. Luckily, she's 23 and a nurse. So she kind of tends to her injuries and kind of gives her some arnica gel. By the way, do either of you two use arnica gel or arnica tablets?
Arnica gel I have used, definitely.
Yeah. Game changer. We use it all the time here.
Yeah, it's really good for bruises and cuts and things. Yeah.
My mum literally gets it out, even if like my daughter even does anything, like just jumps up and down, and she's like, hey, "We need the arnica gel." I'm like, "Calm down."
She's just covered in arnica every day.
Yeah.
But anyways, then Barbara goes to the police herself because she talks to Peter about it.
Peter, and we were asking if Peter's in it again, and he is.
He is. He's back. He's back, and with a chummy update as well, which is nice.
Yeah, and a lovely fetching hat I found.
Oh, is it not?
But when he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry you had to see that, Barbara." Like she sees a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but again, she stuck up for herself. She was a warrior again, saying she was all right, and she was telling Peter like, we have sex workers all the time, Peter. Like, calm yourself.
Well, also, I mean, he could have. I mean, I do get that he's being nice to her, but also like maybe spare an extra little comment like, "Oh, I'm sorry this woman had to go through this." Perhaps not just that Barbara had to witness it, but that like this poor woman had to experience this violence. I mean, that he could have made that point a little bit more clearly. I mean, he definitely seems sympathetic, and he does say, he's like, "Oh, well, he's like, my hands are tied because the law says that she committed a crime even though he committed a crime on her while she was committing a crime by soliciting." And it's like, well, this weird infinity band of like nightmare legislation is like obviously of use to no one, but I don't know.
It's the law. And
he was like, "Well, my hands are tied," and it's like, oh, Peter, unhelpful.
At this stage, we just think it's a one-off. We think it's one of Lizzie's punters.
Johns.
Yeah, we're not really sure where it's going, but
so anyway, cut to Sister Julianne has what was her name? Judith Coleman.
Judith Coleman.
Yeah. So
baby Michael.
Yeah, baby Michael Coleman. So Sister Julianne's seeing her, and Mrs. Coleman's got a newborn called Michael, and he just won't stop crying, and they call it colic. Now, can I just say, I know you were on your soapbox before, Jen, about women in society being treated badly. This is my main soapbox in life.
Oh, sure, go ahead. Go off.
So my daughter didn't sleep for like 3-4 weeks when she was first born. It was absolute hell. I was poorly. It was just the worst time of my life, and I was saying to the doctors, "There's something wrong. She's climbing me in pain. There's something wrong here. I've got no sleep. She's getting no sleep. It's just absolutely horrific." And they were just like, "It's colic. It's colic. What can you do? Nothing. It's colic." I genuinely wanted to just blow it up, that doctor's office. It was awful. And she didn't have colic. She actually had reflux really badly. And we actually did get it sorted in the end, but only because I kept going for it. But they just tell new mums who have no idea what's going on, never done it before, they just say colic. There's nothing you can do, colic.
Well, shame on Sister Julianne.
Yeah. A gentle moonlight walk would do you both the world of good. Well, it didn't, did it, Sister Julianne?
That makes it sound like it's a lovely stroll, but she's actually just walking around the docklands of London,
crying and singing, "Half a pound of truffle rice, half a pound of treacle."
Also, by the way, like, Okay, I just Googled, I just looked up colic because I was like, because you were saying like they were just kind of passing you off with this, nothing.
Yeah.
Comment, and I'm like, well, what is colic? Like really? Because I mean, I've seen what it is, but it's like, what is it really actually? And it's like pain or discomfort from gas or indigestion. Okay. A digestive system that isn't fully developed, overfeeding or underfeeding, sensitivity to formula or breast milk, overstimulation, an early form of childhood migraine headache, emotional reaction to fear, frustration, or excitement. So literally colic is just apparently anything. Like even they don't know what it is. It's
with
just
zero meaning,
your
zero
baby's
help,
unhappy.
zero treatment. Yeah,
your baby's unhappy, and just good freaking luck apparently.
Tough.
So Judith Coleman is pretty desperate by this point. She's not getting any sleep. Her husband
can relate.
Also, wait a minute, can I just add on to your point, Al, because this absolutely okay, now I know that Colin Coleman is a nice man, and like not to throw him under the bus because he's a sweet guy, but the thing that really
Colin Coleman.
Yeah, his name is
No, I know. I'm just saying.
It's a wacky name. But like the thing that absolutely sends me to the moon, and like this isn't even Judith's problem, but again, this like societal expectation that is just built on this unbelievable patriarchal domination of like, oh, she even says it. She's like, well, like he has to get up early for work. It's his sleep that matters. Excuse me, you have to take care of a defenseless newborn all day, and you don't have an important job, Judith. Your sleep doesn't matter. That man can't miss a couple of hours a night to help out the wife that he loves.
Well, this is 1960s Britain where the man was getting to sleep. I'll tell you this for nothing. During the week, my husband slept downstairs.
And how much help did you get in 2017 when your baby was born, huh?
That's exactly what I'm saying. My point being, I don't think it's changed since 1960. I think that's just
I know. And you know what? The more that I go along, the more I'm realizing this is why I'm still single, because this behavior absolutely drives me nuts. I can't.
In Colin's defense, he is working. Judith's not.
I can't even believe those words just came out of your mouth. If I didn't know you as well, I would absolutely like hit delete on this podcast right now. We would never
in the 1960s. I don't know.
It's still like that now, Bex. You're literally thinking what my mum was saying. Well, he's got work. Well, I'm also going insane, and also, I nearly died. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
what does Colin do for a job? We don't want him tired operating heavy machinery.
Well, I'm just going to tell you that I know that you're joking when you're saying these things right now, which is why all of us are smiling.
Oh, if only I was.
But there is no way that you were going to tell me that taking care of a baby is not work, okay? Because if you had anybody else take care of your baby, you would pay them money to do it. You wouldn't get it done for free. So if you have to pay someone to do something, it's work, okay? It's work. Yes, Colin does have a job, but like, okay, so, and what about it? You know what I mean? Like, I know it's more socially acceptable in 1961 for him to get a full night's sleep, but like, I still don't have any sympathy for it. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's just...
No, but in Colin's defense, are we talking about a full night's sleep, or just he can't be awake all night?
Okay,
I genuinely don't think this point matters. I'm going to wade in it.
I'm just gonna say, when Sister Julianne shows up to have this big heart-to-heart with Judith and Colin and the baby, when she's like really talking about like reporting to the police and everything, Colin says like, I had no idea about any of this. So he's clearly in the dark. So I'm just saying, I think Colin is like, he's a sweet man, but he's 1000% checked out, is all I'm gonna say. So I'll leave it there.
Well, we need to say that Judith is getting pretty desperate. She's walked away from the pram for just a moment, and then she is also attacked. Sister Julianne comes to visit her the next morning and see how she's getting on, and she notices that she's also got a bite mark.
Yeah.
Sister
Julianne goes, hide because she feels so ashamed because she walked away from the baby.
Yeah.
So she doesn't feel she can go to the police because she would have to then explain why. Oh, I think she could have got away with I don't think she had to explain that she'd walked away from the baby.
She thinks that they're going to say that she's an unfit mother for having abandoned
but I don't know why she'd have to say that she was away from the baby. Just say it happened when you were next to the baby.
They could have just said, it happened right next to the pram.
Come on, Emil.
The baby witnessed everything. But Peter, you let us down here with this detective work. So Sister Julianne then mentions it to Peter. Peter then puts two and two together and assumes it's Colin Coleman.
Well, he's very, very clever at that, isn't he? They're known the police for their exhaustive detective work.
So he says it's either Mrs. Coleman's husband or Judith was soliciting.
No in between.
Colin, if you look at Colin, he just, I mean, I know that, right, again, you're going to blast me for this. He just looks like the nicest guy. But I know
I'm not going to blast you. He does look like the nicest guy. Yeah.
Well, I've written here, I'm loving Barbara and Peter trying to help. Peter's obviously less good at being a warrior than Barbara, but they did get Fred in with the CDC to help. And there was a meeting there, and Fred was talking to them. And he was, and a few of the men were like murmurs. Tony should have been there because he wouldn't have been like this, but they kicked him out. But there's no, but they were basically murmuring about the fact that it was sex workers. And he's like, there's no cause for levity. Ladies' safety is at risk. And someone was like, what ladies? And then Fred gave him a short shrift. He was like, no, people's safety are at stake. Don't be like that.
I love it when Fred goes all official.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a real champion.
So the CDC aren't doing extra patrols. That's why they escort Sister Mary Cynthia to the phone box when she has to ring an ambulance for Diane.
Yes.
So she's safe at that point, yeah. But
Peter and Barbara are also doing their own. They track down Lizzie and try and persuade her to go to the police. Her husband has abandoned her and their children. She can't go to the police. She doesn't want a conviction for soliciting. So that's a dead end.
Another deadbeat dad.
And then there's a scene where, oh my goodness, the tension. So it's nighttime and Trixie and Sister Mary Cynthia are cycling home alone separately, but they're following them both with the camera. Now we all thought that it was
they cut this for ours. They cut this for ours.
Yeah. I'm glad they did for you, because honestly I thought I was going to be sick. So really tense, so tense, and I knew what was happening. But so they're following Trixie and they're following Sister Mary Cynthia on their cycle home, and Trixie, it was just so tense. So they follow Trixie for a bit, and then Sister Mary Cynthia stops to get off a bike, goes for pray, because obviously she had that tense conversation with Sister Julienne before about and she felt really close to God and she felt great, so she went to pray. And then Sister Mary Cynthia was attacked, and it was absolutely heartbreaking, because the next scene you see is her passed out on the floor.
And she comes to.
Yeah,
it's really bad.
Oh, it was awful. It was absolutely awful.
Yeah, she was really abused.
She acted it really well as well. You know, the anger and the worry and the hurt and the.
Do you know what got me though? Is Sister Julienne said to her, the first thing Sister Julienne said to her,
I've written this down.
What were you thinking of? Cycling alone? Like, what option did she have?
Like victim blaming a Sister Julienne of all people. And I tell you who was amazing, Trixie, not being like, don't you dare blame yourself. This was not your fault.
But do you know who else was also good? Sister Monica Joan.
She was amazing.
She was.
Sister Monica Joan, she comes through again. She is a nightmare, but she does come through when the chips are down.
She won't eat in this episode. She's being a pain in the ass about that. But when the chips are down for Sister Mary Cynthia, she just didn't want to be touched, didn't want to be talked to, she didn't want anything. Sister Monica Joan was there with tender, loving care. She was there with a sponge, giving her a really gentle sponge bath. She was just there being with her. She absolutely nailed the help there. She was brilliant.
Yeah, I won't say more, just I agree with you both on that point, for sure.
Yeah.
So at first, Sister Mary Cynthia doesn't want to go to the police, but she then changes her mind and says that the other two women don't have a voice, and she does have a voice, and this is something that she can do, and she can talk to the police. And she had a very good description of him.
Yeah, she does, but she said she's drawn strength from God, and I was really pleased, because I was a bit worried about her, thinking that she wouldn't be. You know, when I was saying about at the start of the episode, I thought she was a bit maybe not losing her faith, but losing, her.
It was a real crisis of faith moment. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, so Mary Cynthia, the attacker had tattoos. So we find out that they're Soviet tattoos, they're prison tattoos. Sounds awful. Where ink is rubbed into cuts made with a knife. Oh.
Well, also, I really love the informants. Peter's informant telling him that.
Yeah, you got the feeling he was like a really like a CI, you know what I mean? Like he's like.
Well, it's just the way the informant as well had come into the station, like as if any informant ever just comes in for an appointment to the station. All right, I'm here for me 4:00 on a Friday.
So he's like, I've never seen tattoos like that, and he's like, I have, and then he takes a big drag of a cigarette. And he's like the hardest man in the whole world ever, like he probably eats his steak with like a like a serrated I was gonna say serrated knife, but everyone eats steak with a serrated knife, but you know what I'm saying, like he probably
he probably eats his steak without a napkin. He's well hard. I was loving those. So her description was amazing, and then they arrested the sailor because apparently there's only one sailor in the whole of London.
Yeah, it was very easy to pinpoint. Oh, it's just that guy. Okay, well there you go.
I put here, if only everything got tied up that easily. I was actually genuinely relieved, though it had to be. It's called Midwife on a Sunday night. They had to arrest it, but I actually loved it.
Yeah,
but yeah, as I say, I do think obviously this isn't going to help Sister Mary Cynthia's troubled demeanour. It's very much not, but she acted it so well, being angry and being upset, but being sad at the same time, as being vulnerable, as being strong. She was just amazing. I thought the actress did an amazing job.
Yeah. I will say it was an interesting thing, because I didn't quite get this the first time when I had watched this, but I thought about it more, was the beginning scene with Sister Julianne, that you brought up. Like, the whole point of that conversation is Sister Julianne saying, like, please just like make sure that you feel confident to raise your voice when the time comes. And the fact that the way that they kept on phrasing it was that we need someone to speak out against this man, otherwise we can't make an arrest, we can't make a report. And it was interesting that they kind of foreshadowed Cynthia finding her voice by Sister Julianne making a request that she find her voice and make herself be heard. And I thought, when I watched it again, I was like, oh, that is really the depth of this writing, like that it's a way to make those things connect in such a beautiful way throughout the story. Anyway, I was really glad it was resolved.
No, it's true. Yeah, 100%.
So is there anybody else we have to talk about? Anything else?
We touched on the fact that Sister Monica Joan is off her food, but we don't know what's going on with her yet.
But again, another worry for Sister Mary
Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Sorry, say again.
That was another worry for Sister Mary Cynthia, I think, because I just called her Mary.
She says she's fasting, but I don't think she is fasting. I think she's not feeling well.
Yeah, same.
Oh, okay. Because I saw the scene where oh gosh, Nurse Crane is like, oh no, she's not eating any of that right now. Like, I'll just have I am partial to flaky pastry, so I'll have some. And I was like, I didn't know what it was in reference to, and they didn't say anything more than that.
So there's a scene where Sister Mary Cynthia sits down with Sister Monica Joan. She's not eating, and kind of Sister Mary Cynthia says, like, you really struggled with the Lenten fast. Like, you need to tell us if you'd So, and she says that she's doing it for religious reasons, but I don't think she's not very well.
Yeah. Okay. Also, in this episode, Trixie confides in Delia and Patsy that she's not going to an art history class, that she is actually going to Alcoholics Anonymous.
I wrote good on her, and then the moment I wrote that, Delia says, good for you. So just to echo Delia's comment.
Delia and Patsy are just the best people to tell. They're always supportive. They're so great. Obviously, we know their secret, but no one else does. They're very liberal-minded. And they're just amazing, and I just love that. Also, did you see the Ovaltine in this episode?
No.
There was Ovaltine. Yeah, there was.
Also, when Trixie was on the night shift, and when Mrs. Hills ends up ringing Nonnatus House, so Trixie's got to wait up. And did you notice Patsy had been in Delia's room, and Trixie was like, "Where have you been?" And we were like, "We know what you've been up to."
Yeah, that she's been teaching her a new card game, just like Patsy said she was.
Yeah. And been planning their Friday night cinema trips.
And one point that I would like to make is there were lots of babies' feet exposed in this episode. When Thora is holding Diane's baby while Trixie's helping her, baby's feet. When Sister Julianne is holding Judith's baby, like, come on, swaddle these babies better.
I was like, where are you going with this? Why are you so twisted about the feet? Oh, you
know, it's weird you say that. Someone on Facebook said that today, and I can't find it, but someone did actually say that on Facebook today.
Yeah. So I just kept noticing baby's feet, and I'm like, for God's sake, get the blanket around those feet.
Oh, well, it's summer. It's summer. It's warm enough.
I've got one shout out from this episode as well. So Dr. Godfrey quite fancied Nurse Crane.
Yes.
He did.
But he was also talking about a retirement age, about her working after retirement age. And she was like, I am not close to I will retire when I am of retirement age. And that is not for some time. I love the way she stood up for herself.
And then I love the way she said, Buenas vacaciones to Dr. Turner.
She's
and
great.
Sheila was like,
Should we do heroes and zeros?
Yes. Do you want to go first?
My zero is Dr. Turner for having an unwrapped Cornish pasty in his doctor's bag, because it's the fact that it was unwrapped in a doctor's bag.
Yeah, that's
and it's a Cornish pasty.
Yeah, that
it's
is
not
right.
like
no.
Anyway, I just thought that was a step too far.
Yeah.
My hero, I mean, obviously there were other negatives in the story. The attacker.
No, I liked it.
I just love when you go, it's a step too far. You say it a good amount, and it's just like, I think it's so cute. You're just like, Nope. You were with me until you unwrapped the Cornish pasty and put it in your doctor's bag. It's a step too far.
My hero, I'm doing quite they're not the key characters, but Trixie is going to be my hero for having the courage to share with Delia and Patsy something that she's kept really private and feeling that she can confide in them. And I think that shows how far she's come.
Yeah, you've just nicked mine. Also,
sorry.
The fact that she stood up for Sister Mary Cynthia as well, when saying it wasn't your fault. No, it's fine. I'll find another. Jen?
Sure. Okay, I have mine. So my 0 is this. This is directly from my notes. I probably could have worded this better, but I wrote the shame and violence of secrets. That's my 0.
It's not Cornish pasty. Cornish pasty.
I mean, they're on the same level, obviously, but no, I just thought each storyline had an element of the harm that comes from keeping secrets. And I'm not saying every secret is bad, but Thora was keeping secrets, Diane was keeping secrets, Diane was being compelled to keep the secret. Mrs. Coleman's secret, her kind of way that she had to behave. Trixie was keeping a secret that wasn't serving her ultimately. She was able, and then Cynthia was feeling that she couldn't come forward and everything. And so this idea of secrets being something that are a way that you are concealing something and hiding something that is ultimately hurting you. And so that was my 0, because I just saw a lot of sadness and pain and hardship come from that. And then my hero is the flip side, which is the power of being honest and the power of being truthful. And the thing that Thora says to Diane is, I'm not going to lie about this anymore. We're going to tell the truth, and the rest of the world can just sod off, basically. If they don't want to accept it or they don't want to accept you, we're not gonna lie about this. This isn't how we're going to do this. Because she's like, I saw how much I hurt you by making you do that, and I just don't want to do that anymore. And Trixie, to you guys' point, I mean, she came out and she told her friends the truth about where she was going, and they were completely accepting, and that was then a pathway for them to be closer to her. And Mrs. Coleman wasn't able to kind of come forward and report the crime or whatever, but she had some truthfulness and honesty with Sister Julian and her husband, which I hope will make their marriage and relationship better going forward. We don't know, but hopefully they will. So those were my heroes and zeros.
Love it. Also, can I say sod off? Is that a British thing you learn, or do Americans say it as well?
Oh no, that's British. No, Americans don't say sod off. Yeah. I think it's a very great saying, actually, but yeah, we don't really say that.
Just a quick aside, I went to see that Elemental film today with my daughter, and one of the characters is called Clod, like Clod of Earth, and because they're a piece of earth, and my daughter was like, anyway, it just reminded me of that. Anyway, my hero is Barbara, for being such a warrior for the cause. She really was amazing, and she did go with Peter. She went out of her way to try and sort this, and she tried to speak to everyone. She tried to sort everything. She was amazing. She was a warrior. Your word, Jen. My 0 is Dr. Godfrey, but also a colic. Colic's also up there. But Dr. Godfrey, just for being absolutely misogynistic to the core, thinking he was everyone because he was a man. No, thank you.
Sexist on a whole other level. He sucked.
Yeah, he was just absolutely awful, and he was 0 along with Colic. Now I've got a few little bon mots from social media to talk about. Okay, so Alex from Instagram has messaged.
Okay.
And they've said, so do you remember we had the episode where it was Linda Lanyard and her boyfriend Ian, and he was going off to uni, and we were joking about the name of the club. So she said, I'm sure I'm not the first to tell you this, but Durham's Rubbish Student Union Club is called Clute. You are the first and only. It was the second worst club in Britain, but the worst burnt down. She also said, I almost sent that message to Call The Midwife official. Lols. But then they carry on and says, my husband, or said she, Alex could be a boy or a girl, actually, just thinking about that. But they've said, my husband just reminded me that Clute is owned by the Cummings family of Dominic Cummings. Yeah.
The name of the club is Clute, Clute.
Klute. Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds nasty. I don't know what a clute would be considered like.
It sounds like a cross between like a blood clot and some word for a poo.
Yeah, it sounds like a prehistoric, like weird amoeba like fish or something like that. It's just it's not nice.
Now, Becky, I need your expertise on this, because I always say freesia, but I don't know if that's how you say that word, that flower. Freesia.
Yeah, freesia.
Yeah, freesia.
For what it's worth, I always say freesia, but I don't know if that's
that's why I didn't ask you. So
freesia.
Oh my god, okay.
Don't ask the American how to pronounce something.
Yeah, exactly. Tomato.
Do you hear, listeners? This is what
aluminum. Anyway,
oh god.
Risha Crochet off Instagram mentioned us in a post, and I just want to mention this post because I just loved it. So she put, so I just basically found myself tagged in this post on Recall the Midwife because I'm the only one who does social media. Anyway, so I put, hello friends. I hope I didn't put this. She put this. I hope your Monday started your week off well. So as you can see, I've started another Call the Midwife blanket. This may be my first in a solid colour. You need to follow her on Instagram. It's amazing. I've started watching Call the Midwife again from the start after watching all of it this year, as I've never seen it before, but this time crocheting through the episodes. How calming and lovely does that sound?
Yeah,
it's like listening to my friends' adventures and stories. I'm also reading the book, and I believe Jennifer Worth wrote another one about workhouses, so I'm looking out for that. Now, Freesia Crochet, we are on that next. And in the daytime, Crochet, Freesia_crochet. And in the daytime, I listen to the Recall the Midwife podcast, which is listeners' questions editions. I may have to contribute. Well, you have now. And then she's going on about how they like another show, which is Drag Race, which is amazing also. But point being, the love that you listen to. Thank you so much for listening. Big shout out to you. But also, the Call the Midwife blankets are amazing. So
I really wish I could crochet. I did class in it.
Wait a minute. Okay, you're gonna have to tag me in her because anyways, I can't. Okay, we'll do it after. Okay.
So anyway, I was saying, love this. Thank you so much for listening. And she said, thank you. You've inspired me to try Horlicks.
Oh, I love that.
Quite a few people. So we've had another really good one from Serene Leeds, who says that she was a journalist and a professional writer. She is one. And she wrote an article about Call the Midwife during season 5 for the Wall Street Journal. And she's actually had the honour of interviewing Jenny and Laura by phone separately. But it was while they were in South Africa filming that year's Christmas special.
Oh my God.
I know. And she remembers Jenny stopping the interview because she was looking at the most incredible sunset and she was wishing she could see it. So it was pre-Zoom and she was pregnant at the time too. How special is that memory? And she said that Jenny and Laura were both so supportive with her saying that she was pregnant. And Jenny said, I wish I could be there in the delivery room with you. I'm sure she gets that a lot from the fans. That's Jenny Agata.
And then Laura who?
Maine.
Oh, Sheila.
Yeah. And she was also supposed to interview Helen George, but she was too busy. We know how she was busy. She was getting together with Tom in real life on that script.
Her and Jack Aston were looking at a different kind of sunset.
Yeah, but she answered her questions by email, probably in between, snogging Tom in real life. Well, how amazing is that?
Oh,
that is amazing.
So her podcast is called Emotional Abuse is Real, and she interviews people on that. So I haven't actually listened to it. I'm going to listen to this week, but I'm going to do a preemptive recommend.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
well, I'd like to listen to her.
Well.
I'd like to listen to her podcast as well. So after this, we'll have to get all those details so we can follow up with those people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Our account follows them, so that's amazing. But thank you so much for writing in, and how exciting.
I love it. I love it. You know what? Also, like I don't know that I don't know what's gonna happen with this podcast or like getting to meet anyone from the show or connect with anyone from the show for real. But I have had this feeling that like if there was anyone from the show I'd want to meet, it'd be Jenny Agutter because I absolutely love Sister Julian as everyone knows. But like they always say like don't meet your heroes and everything. But like that does give me like a ray of sunshine that like Jenny is probably just as sweet in person.
I can't believe that anyone on this show would be awful, if I'm honest. And do you know who I love and would love to interview? Cliff Parisi.
Oh, I know. He would be
I don't
great.
even know if I'm saying his name right.
I'm sure
we can ask.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Let's ask him. Yeah, let's get him on.
Oh, he would be amazing. I just picture him being like
I can't think of anyone on the episode that I wouldn't want to interview, including Jimmy. I can't think of anyone I wouldn't. We know you wouldn't say no to him, Jen, but I actually wouldn't say no to interview him either.
It could literally be season 15 and I will never hear the end of that. I haven't brought him up like once and I never live it down. Oh gosh.
It's true.
I would like to talk to Fred as well. You know who else I'd like? Well, I mean, I'm just gonna start naming everyone on the cast if it's like people I'd love to talk to, but
I'd like to speak to like costume people as well though and find out where they get stuff from.
Oh my god, I would die to speak to costume people. I think that'd be so fun.
Even just casting people to find out the process of getting the babies from the hospital and how often they have to do it.
Yes. Also, Heidi Thomas, obviously, because I want to know, like, I know I saw a thing about her and it was like, oh, she always does all this research and she's always looking into like stories from the period and trying to figure out like whatever, but like, how does she craft like a not just an individual show, but like a whole season? I mean, I know she's not the only writer. I know they have other writers that help and everything like that too, but I mean, there's got to be like so much process. And then like, I wonder like, how much do they think about all of the different, layers of like, messaging and everything like that. Also, girls, I promise I won't go off on a big thing because I already went off on like big things multiple times this episode, but I definitely was like really in my feelings with watching this one, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think this show is one of the most radically feminist shows on television, bar none. That's it.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I probably said that before and it's like not a surprise to anyone, but I just the way that you like watch these stories and if you actually stop and think about them, the way
it's the tacit things of society that never actually get shown on because it's involving women and like even now there's like a bit of a hoo-ha. There's adverts for Femme Fresh about intimate freshness and people are going on about that on social media like it's this shocking thing. This is showing that this is the gritty side of birth and the relationships that deal with that and the people involved, and this is the tacit side of society that never gets shown.
Well, just take any of these storylines and switch the gender roles and see how you would think about it. Like, can you imagine a man, like, let's say Judith Coleman, like if it was Joe Coleman, if he experienced a violent attack while he was caring for his child, would anyone think that he should stay home because like he's not allowed to make a statement about it? You know what I mean? Like even if he stepped away from his baby for 1 minute or not, you know what I mean? Like just like Thora and Diane, like if that was a son who'd done something, I mean, you wouldn't be like, oh, this boy is ruined for life. I mean, just craziness.
Well, the boy wasn't, was he? That's the whole point. The boy got away from it scot-free. Yeah.
I know. I mean, look at like the storyline we had a couple of weeks ago with Mrs. the teacher, Mrs. Young or something. I can't remember her name now, but the teacher that was pregnant by the married guy. You know what I mean? Like again,
got it. There were zero consequences for him.
Yeah. Switch roles and like, all of a sudden it's like, whoa. And I just think like if anyone watches the show and they like really think about what's going on, like, you'll just be like, how do we tolerate this? Like, I mean, I know that the show is in a time period that's now, like over 50 years ago, but I just think it just provides a lot of opportunity for like really meaningful thought about these issues. So
well, it's true.
I'm on my soapbox today, girls. I've got to get off. I've got to get off.
By the way, it was Dorothy Whitmore. Anyway, now.
Oh, Miss Whitmore. Yeah.
Next week, we are watching Series 5, Episode 7.
Yeah.
We would love for you to watch along. So watch it and then listen along with us. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much for all your support on social media, all your comments, everything. We are getting through everything. So send us your comments, send us your recommendations, send us your questions, send us your... Don't say anything nasty. We don't need it. Not that it's happened recently, but still, we don't need it. If it's not for you, just don't tell us. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We love you all listening. We love all the interactions. So please keep it coming. And please carry on listening with us. We love it.
We love it. Love it.
See you next week.
Bye.